audience, but maybe it is. Maybe it's like I'm tired of movies, and and so I really felt like this was my swan song, um, maybe more than anything else I've done. Like this is my last chance to do a movie, and I don't really care if it leads to another movie. So I'm going to do exactly what I want with it.
Charlie Kaufman's latest film, I'm Thinking of Ending Things, adapted from a novel by Ian Reid, once again demonstrated the director's unique style of storytelling and his unprecedented ability to delve into the subconscious through the medium of film. What makes this project different from his other work, however, is the fact that Kaufman knew that this may be his very last directing venture. Today, we're going to explore how Kaufman made a story written by someone else's own, and how he used it to say a precautionary goodbye to the industry. First, it is impossible to ignore the creative choices that the director made in order to enrich the narrative through the style of the film. The limited 4:3 aspect ratio creates a sense of claustrophobia and is a great metaphor for us getting only part of the picture in terms of the story. The camera work has now been discussed in a few video essays praising how it masterfully portrays the anticipation of a person reliving a memory or a dream. It travels to a point before the characters, a detail easy to miss, but impossible to ignore once it's noticed. The warm, rich colors of interiors opposed to the cold color tones of, well, cold exteriors help reinstate the characters' feelings about the outside world. Lastly, the soundtrack masterfully complements the changing moods in the film, varying from cheerful
The assumptions are right. I can feel my fear growing now.
to suspenseful, to eerie, to quite dramatic, as one's dreams might be. What is most interesting, though, are the ways in which Kaufman changed certain details or implemented his own ideas into the narrative. The original novel reads a lot more like a horror story, with creepy memories of men standing outside windows, neighbors giving food poisoning to your parents, unsettling paintings of gaunt figures with long nails, being chased by someone to your death, and a phrase repeated over 4 pages in the book, only what could be assumed as an homage to Kubrick's The Shining. On the other hand, Kaufman's version feels more like a psychological exploration of the horrors of being lost in one's head, with scenes that build tension to no climax or resolution, subverting our expectations and disorienting the viewer. It's not heart-stopping or intense or blood-curdling or graphic or violent. No jump scares. To me, these qualities aren't usually scary. Something that disorients, that unsettles what's taken for granted, something that disturbs and disrupts reality. That's scary. That is a quote from Reid's novel itself, and it's incredible to think how much it fits not only the film but Kaufman's general filmmaking style. Who can forget the scene in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind where a character is witnessing their memories being deleted and as a result is seeing this? Nothing graphic or sudden, just an unsettling distortion of reality. Another interesting change that Kaufman made in his film was the appearance of Jake. In the book, the character is described as long, sloping, and unequal, with unkempt hair, skeletal cheekbones, and full lips that, as written in the book, make up for his underfed look. The description would maybe make one think of Cillian Murphy in 28 Days Later or Jared Leto in Requiem for a Dream, but Kaufman cast Jesse Plemons, who gave a wonderful performance but nonetheless looked quite different from what was described in the book. The casting circumstances for Jake's role are unclear, but it's hard to ignore the fact that Plemons shares quite the resemblance with the late Philip Seymour Hoffman, who starred in Kaufman's Synecdoche, New York. Kaufman straying away from the descriptions in the novel and casting Plemons could be the clearest indication that the director has a specific type when it comes to choosing actors to tell his stories. One of the biggest imprints that Kaufman left in the film, however, was the impressive amount of philosophical ideas and cultural references that are weaved into the script. Compared to the 4 direct references made in the book, Kaufman wrote in almost 20, not to mention Jake's room, which was crammed with books and DVDs that all seemed to point to the film itself in one way or another. The director also did not hesitate to put in any reference that he thought worthy of associating with the narrative. For example, Anna Kavan's novel Ice, that Jake mentions outside Tulsi Town, follows a protagonist feverishly pursuing a woman while ice consumes the world. Similarly, how Jake is focused on the young woman while they travel through snowy and windy weather. The book has also been described as dreamlike, unsettling, and told in scenes of happenstance, which all sounds very familiar to the way people describe Kaufman's films as well.
If you're not familiar with the works of writer-director Charlie Kaufman, he's become known for making quite bizarre, challenging, and bleak films for most of his career.
When it comes to what people like to call Kaufman's truth bombs, it seems like the characters discuss almost anything and everything that crossed the director's mind at the time of adapting the novel. The car ride scenes that take up a good third of the film include some profound discussions on subjects such as the way time interacts with us instead of us interacting with time.
We're stationary, and time passes through us, blowing like cold wind, stealing our heat, leaving us chapped and frozen.
What are you thinking?
I don't know.
The biological background and reasoning behind depression and suicide.
There are insects that blow themselves up.
Yes.
Not everything wants to live.
There are certain ants, certain aphids.
For the good of their community.
They're suicide bombers. But I suspect humans are the only animals that know the inevitability of their own deaths. Other animals live in the present. Humans cannot, so they invented hope.
The strong, inevitable impact of media on our behavior and way of thinking.
I suppose I watched too many movies.
Everybody does. Societal malady.
Fill my brain with lies to pass the time.
It's like the rabies virus, attaching itself to our ganglia, and changing us into itself.
And this is just to name a few. While watching the film, one can't help but get the feeling that Kaufman is using the characters and the medium itself to speak directly to us, taking this final opportunity to share the ideas and other people's work that have impacted him, doing this in an unrestrained and unfiltered manner that only screenwriter-directors can afford. If I'm thinking of ending things does prove to be the last film Kaufman directed, it's not a sad or a sudden goodbye. It's well thought out, personal, incredibly generous, and could be best compared to the hug the janitor gives to the young woman in the film. It's the dreamer reconciling and saying a farewell to his dream.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
When you get out this far, there's not much signal.